Lawrence Cager, a practice squad guy that Dan Quinn just name-dropped at the NFL owners' meetings in front of every owner in the league. That is not an accident. That is a massive signal about what is coming for Jaden Daniels on third down, and that connects directly to something Adam Peters has been sitting on with that little smirk this week. Because April 15 is coming and something in burgundy and gold is coming back home. But what nobody in the DMV has on their radar yet is a 2026 draft name that already had 3 contacts with Washington and allowed only 104 yards in coverage for the entire season, the whole year. That number is absolutely insane, and you are going to care about it before this video is over. The Commanders let Zach Ertz walk, and if you're a fan who watched what Ertz meant to Jaden Daniels in 2024 as a safety valve, you know that is not a small move. Ertz was the guy on third down who knew exactly when to sit down in the void of the zone. That instinct, that timing, you don't replace that easily. Quinn himself called it one of Ertz's superpowers, so who fills that void? The obvious answer is Chig Okonkwo, the tight end they signed for $30 million in free agency. And of course, Okonkwo is now the headliner of that room. Quinn already talked about him, about his real game speed, not just combined clock speed, but demonstrated speed on the field, on deep over routes in the play-action game. That fits perfectly into what a new offensive coordinator like David Blau can build around. Ben Sinnott is still there with his role in motion in the backfield, running to the edge. John Bates remains one of the best inline guys in the league. Colson Yankoff has worked hard in that dual role. The room has real depth, but what Quinn said that nobody expected to hear was about Lawrence Cager. Cager, a guy who entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent with the Jets in 2020, who has bounced on and off the practice squad, who signed a futures contract back in January, 6'5", 220 pounds, plays like a wide receiver trapped in a tight end's body, and Quinn, at the owners' meetings, went out of his way to bring Cager up. Nobody asked about him. Quinn found him in the conversation himself. He said, literally, that if you asked him which player he's watching most closely this spring and through training camp, Cager is that name, that he's watching this guy put in an incredible amount of work right now. That is not a casual compliment. When a head coach in Dan Quinn, at the most important annual meetings in the league with owners sitting around the table, decides to turn the camera toward a practice squad player, there is a reason. There is something they've seen in the daily work that tells them this guy can do something special. The specific role Quinn is envisioning for Cager is third down. The slot on third and long. The receiver who can read coverage and find the opening when everyone on the field is compressed and under pressure. Is that a big ask for a 28-year-old with that kind of history? Absolutely, but Quinn would not put him in that conversation if there wasn't real evidence showing up in practice every single day. And here's the bigger tactical picture, having multiple options at that position, each with a different role. Okonkwo as the speed weapon in play action, Sinnott as the motion piece out of the backfield, Bates as the solid blocker, and potentially Cager as the third down specialist that gives David Blau a different tool for every situation. That complicates the opposing defense's game plan in a serious way because you can no longer look at the down and distance and automatically know who's coming in and what's coming next. The defense has to prepare for all of them. That creates the spacing and the favorable reads that Jaden Daniels needs to operate at his highest level. And yes, Daniels is going to miss Ertz. The trust you build over time between a quarterback and his safety valve doesn't appear overnight. But if Cager can be even 60% of what Ertz was on third down, combined with what Okonkwo adds to the dynamic passing attack, the Commanders could come out of this transition better than they went in. The committee approach Quinn is running is a bet, sure, but it's an informed bet with clear roles defined for each player. And in modern football, versatility and depth at tight end can be one of the biggest offensive advantages a team has. And while Quinn is solving that equation on offense, there's another story that has the entire fan base counting down the days on the calendar. April 15. Mark that date on your calendar. Put it in your phone. Tattoo it on your arm if you have to. Because the Washington Commanders are about to give the fan base the uniforms that never should have left. Now look, we already know quite a bit. This isn't a total mystery anymore. The jerseys they wore in those throwback games last season, those burgundy and gold looks that had everybody going crazy. Those are becoming the primary uniform, the main look, the one we'll see week after week in 2026, and that alone is enormous. But there's more. There's also a burgundy jersey with white pants coming, and if you're a longtime fan, if you're one of the people who remember the Super Bowl years, that combination's going to hit you right in the chest because you've seen it before. That's pure heritage. That's identity. Josh Harris at the annual NFL League meetings literally said they have a bunch of things up their sleeve. His exact words, and the priority, he said, is honoring our past while looking to the future. That is not corporate marketing. That is an owner who understands what Commanders fans have been screaming for since they threw that identity in the trash with the 2020 rebrand. But the part that really has me in full detective mode is Adam Peters. Peters was on Kay Adams' show this week, and Kay tried to get something out of him about the uniforms, and Peters did the most adorable and frustrating thing in the world. He pretended he had no idea what she was talking about, looking away with that little smile, and he said, and I quote, "We don't know, do we? It would be really cool if they did that." I loved when we did the throwbacks last year, how cool those were, how much the fans loved those. Any more leaning into our history would be really cool. Any more leaning into our history, that is everything you need to know, because Peters is not the type of guy who talks just to fill airtime. This is the GM who has made surgical decisions with every single free agency move. Every word out of his mouth has intention behind it, and when he says anything that honors our history, more would be really cool. While being asked specifically about the uniforms, that is not a throwaway comment. Now, what's still unresolved, what really has the DMV going crazy right now, are the helmets. Because there are multiple options there, and any one of those options can take this from excellent to historic. Does the burgundy helmet come back? The gold, some new combination? A whole new alternate nobody saw coming? Look, I could be wrong, but the way both Harris and Peters have built this suspense, showing the video with Super Bowl trophies in the background, delivering equipment boxes in front of historic jerseys, that is not accidental. That is deliberate storytelling. And the most important thing here, beyond the colors and the designs, is what this represents culturally for the fan base. For 5 years, we suffered through a visual identity that didn't belong to anyone, that had no history, no soul. You'd walk into the team store and you didn't recognize the team. And now, with Josh Harris making the right call, with Adam Peters publicly validating it, it genuinely feels like somebody finally listened. The name stays. Harris confirmed that again. The Commanders are the Commanders, but the look, the image, the visual soul of this franchise, that is coming home. April 15th cannot get here fast enough, and while we wait for that day, there's one more name you need to have on your radar before everybody else starts talking about him. The Commanders already addressed the secondary and free agency. Nick Cross at safety, Amick Robertson at corner. Quinn confirmed Robertson, and Mike Sainristil will play outside and inside. There's real movement back there, but there's still a real gap, a true free safety, and the nickel corner spot remains an open question. Enter Jaden Kennedy out of Oregon, 5'10", 181 pounds. Projected as a slot corner, but with the ability to slide to safety. And man, the coverage numbers on this guy are ridiculous. For the entire 2025 season, Kennedy allowed 104 yards in coverage, the lowest number among every corner in this entire draft class the whole year. 104 yards, and he wasn't playing against second-string competition. He went up against Mekhi Lemon, one of the most explosive receivers in this draft, and kept him quiet. His passer rating against for the season was 39.4. 39.4, that is elite. That is lockdown. He's got pursuit speed, he processes the field fast, he brings experience, and teams have already been telling him directly in pre-draft meetings that they see him playing multiple positions. The Commanders saw him at the Shrine Bowl, they saw him at the Combine, and now Kennedy himself confirmed he had a Zoom meeting with Washington this week. 3 separate contacts in a draft process where teams guard their cards extremely close. 3 documented touch points with the same prospect says a lot about where the real interest level is. When does he go? That's what makes this interesting. Kennedy is a legitimate sleeper. He's not in the main conversations. He's not sitting at the top of the general mock drafts, and that means Washington might be able to land this guy at a value that doesn't come close to reflecting his actual impact potential. With 6 picks in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Commanders have room to be smart, and if Kennedy falls to the right range and fits perfectly into what Durrani Jones wants in that secondary, that's not just a good draft pick, that is a steal. Write that name down, Jaden Kennedy, Oregon. If he ends up in Ashburn, 6 months from now, y'all are going to be talking about him like he was always part of the plan. Boy, that's... All right, let's put it all together. A tight end room with more options and more firepower than people are giving credit for. Historic uniforms coming back on April 15, and a draft sleeper who could arrive in Washington and fit like a piece that was custom built for this defense. This team is not in rebuild mode. This team is in active construction mode, and every move, every hint, every name dropping out of the owners' meetings, it all points in the same direction. The Commanders are serious, and we're only in April. Fam, drop it in the comments right now. What color helmet do you want to see on April 15? Burgundy? Gold? Something none of us have thought of yet? Let's go. And before you answer, hit that like button. Because if you made it this far, you already know this channel gives you the real analysis. No filler, no fluff, no corporate speak. Raise hail. See you in the next one.